Hi everybody, I'm back for another lecture and we're going to focus on indoor air pollution today. I wanted to start with something funny because Esther asked me to. I played this video for my freshman last year and nobody laughed, which made me laugh, but I think it's hilarious, so enjoy.
Stop.
I just think it's a hilarious video and I always feel like that teacher, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So today we're going to focus on air pollution inside the home. Most of us spend about 90% of our lives in buildings or in houses, so the air pollution that exists inside of these rooms is actually a really large threat to human health, not just environmental health, but our own bodies face a lot of damage when we sit on our beds, sit in our on our computers. So it's something to be concerned about, and it's very troubling what kind of toxins are waiting in our houses. So some natural sources of air pollution, meaning things that humans haven't really added, are radon, mold, which are these airborne spores, and dust. So those are three natural sources of air pollution, meaning humans didn't contribute those to your house. So a bit more about radon. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas. It's called radon-222. And normally we think of radioactive things as things that humans make, but there are many radioactive elements on the periodic table. It's just produced by the decay of uranium that's found naturally in rocks and soil. So there are nuclear plants that use uranium for energy, and that's another threat to our environment and our health, but there is a natural threat in terms of uranium, and that would be radon. So how does radon get into our homes if it's this naturally occurring element in the rocks that are deep below us? Well, over time, the radon moves up through soil, so it will move from bedrock into our homes and our apartments, through the basements, through cracks in walls and foundations. It finds its way into the places that we live. It can also pass in through groundwater. It will seep into wells, into pipes, to drains, and eventually find its way into things like our shower, which is kind of scary. And radon is a serious health risk in certain situations. Coupled with smoking, you definitely increase your risk of cancer. It is just an extreme cancer risk to be exposed to radon. It can enter the lungs and cause damage to your breathing processes, to your lung tissues, and other things, and that can lead to cancers. So some anthropogenic sources of air pollution. Anthropogenic, again, means human sources, so we just went over the natural sources. There was three of them: radon, mold, and dust. They exist in nature, and they would be getting into our homes with or without us, adding extra. This is the stuff where we're adding extra pollution into our lives. So things like insulation, which we use to make our houses stay warm, they contain VOCs, they contain a few other toxins that we should be concerned about, and things like lead, which can cause serious health risks if they're inhaled or ingested. And VOCs are in everything, so I listed it as its own thing because they're not just in insulation, they're in our furnitures, most building materials like insulation and that sort, and paints and glues, and they're in carpeting, which I don't think a lot of people know about. But it is actually a serious health risk because there are VOCs in most carpeting. 70% of our homes are carpeted, and most carpets contain VOCs, and we inhale those VOCs, and that can lead to shortness of breath, headaches, serious illnesses, and coughing, and that sort of thing. So if you wanted to be super conscious, you could try and get a VOC-free carpet, which is listed down. Okay, I just wanted you guys to see how funny my cat looks right now. He's just lounging like this, and I think his legs are just like the funniest thing ever. Okay, sorry, my cat just wanted to be a part of it. So formaldehyde is a gas I wanted to talk about for a few reasons. It's a naturally occurring gas. So it's in the trees that we play around, and it's in our bodies as well. So it's a natural part of our world, but it's also used in a lot of building materials to build houses and household products. It's actually really big in like making cabinets for like your kitchen and stuff. So there's a really high concentration of formaldehyde inside, so it can actually reach dangerous levels if you live in a house with a lot of formaldehyde in it. And it's linked to cancers of the throat and the nose and leukemia, so there is some concern about this specific gas as well. There's other forms of air pollution that are a threat, not necessarily in our lifestyle because we don't burn fires like this in our houses, but this is a type of combustion. It's burning fuel, and it can lead to pollution and create pollutants like carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxides, particulate matter, and even like just tobacco smoke, which can count as a pollutant. If you're sitting in a room where you're burning a stove like this, or even if you're just smoking tobacco, you are exposing yourself to a lot of air pollution. So this again is called combustion. If you're burning, a coal stove, a wood stove, whatever in your house like this, you are combusting fuel, which means there will be primary and secondary pollutants that you then are breathing in. So this is very common in developing countries. They do a lot of indoor burning of things like wood, charcoal, dung, which is like poop, crops, which would be like technically biofuels, and other things, and coal. So they burn them in their houses for a few reasons, but mostly because it's the cheapest option and they don't have access to fancy electric stoves or gas stoves and nice kitchens. They're in developing countries where those things don't exist yet, or they don't have access yet. So poor communities, poor countries suffer the greatest health risks because this is their only option, and they're getting exposed to all these different pollutants in the same place where they'll go to sleep and brush their teeth and that sort of thing. So they're in the most direct contact with these air pollutants. So this is a graphic of the deaths from indoor smoke from burning solid fuels. So if you notice the areas of the world where the highest amount of deaths are, the red, are in developing countries. The African continent has quite a few developing countries. Asia, India has a high death rate from this sort of thing because, again, this is the common way of life for poor communities, poor families to survive, to eat their food. So it is really a sad truth that we have to face, that air pollution is killing millions of people in low-income countries who don't have access to the things that we take for granted in our country, like stoves and the ability to cook food without having to breathe in toxic chemicals. So in developed countries like our own country, indoor air pollution is a bigger problem than outdoor air pollution, which might not make the most sense to you because you think the biggest threat is when you go outside and there's smog and you're breathing that in. But when you're inside, you're still facing a lot of the common air pollutants that we are concerned about, like carbon monoxide, radon, VOCs, lots of other things are in our houses. And we spend 90% of our time indoors, so we're exposed to these for most of our lives. And if you drive or spend time in a car, there's also a great concentration of pollutants in cars, greater than outside, because it's a contained space full of different pollutants like VOCs and that sort of thing. So the more time you spend indoors or in a car, the greater the risk of being exposed to these air pollutants is. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I tried to make it short. I hope you enjoyed it.